The question is, who's involved in this race to perfect quantum computers? And the answer is everyone. The latest developments in quantum data interpretation have revealed something no scientist anticipated. The quantum processor embedded within NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Framework, initially used to filter cosmic noise and decode interstellar signals, rendered an image that wasn't input, simulated, or imagined. This wasn't a case of artificial pattern recognition or digital noise. What the machine returned was a coherent image, structured, symmetrical, and intelligent. It was unmistakably artificial, and it came directly from data captured by Voyager 1. Michio Kaku, one of the most outspoken minds on the intersection of quantum theory and technological advancement, addressed this anomaly in a recent interview. "We may be witnessing the first whisper of a new intelligence," he said. "Something not man-made, not terrestrial, and certainly not random." The image processed and reconstructed via entangled qubit networks displayed a figure humanoid in silhouette, but composed of geometric segments that obeyed no known biological or mechanical pattern. It was almost as if it were deliberately designed to be incomprehensible to the human mind, yet familiar enough to provoke recognition. The origin of the data was confirmed. It came from Voyager 1, transmitted back to Earth as part of routine interstellar measurements. But the structure of the signal was not routine. It exhibited nested harmonics, recursive symmetry, and a fractal amplitude that adapted based on observational interference. Something quantum physicists now refer to as reflexive entanglement. In lay terms, it adjusted its own properties based on the attention paid to it. This mirrors the double-slit experiment in unsettling ways. Only now, the observer wasn't affecting a particle, it was affecting a response. The system used to decode this anomaly was not an ordinary quantum processor. It was the Sycamore X, a modified descendant of Google's 2019 Sycamore chip, where the original chip achieved quantum supremacy through solving a benchmark problem in 200 seconds that would have taken a classical supercomputes in years. Sycamore X was built to analyze space-time signal compression and radio wave echo anomalies. Its architecture included self-modifying quantum gates, experimental tech that once exposed to enough entropy could restructure their logic sequence. It was precisely this behavior that triggered concern after decoding the Voyager signal. The system generated the image autonomously, without prompt, script, or visual reference. Even more baffling, once the image appeared, the system immediately began rerouting its qubits in what Kaku called recursive locking behavior, a pattern resembling a system trying to both contain and obscure its own output. NASA engineers tried to reproduce the result. They couldn't. Every attempt to replicate the input-output process failed. The same data run through identical algorithms produced nothing but noise. Worse, the Sycamore X processor that produced the image began malfunctioning at a quantum level. Qubits dropped out of coherence faster than any known interference pattern would suggest, behaving as though something external yet non-physical was interacting with them. By the time researchers attempted a diagnostic reboot, the image had vanished, not only from the screen, but from the entire system's digital memory. Only a handful of encrypted screenshots and paper printouts remain. The contents of the image have not been officially released, but insiders have described it in hushed, measured tones. A tall, symmetrical entity standing against a blackened backdrop, seemingly composed of light. Its body was intersected by patterns of prime number sequences, and most disturbingly, its face seemed to mirror the observer. Different people saw different faces as though the image was entangled with their conscious state. This has led to an avalanche of speculation. Was this quantum pareidolia, our brains assigning meaning where there is none? Or did the Voyager transmission contain an embedded quantum payload, something only a qubit network could decode? And if the signal was engineered to target quantum machines, then who or what designed it? NASA immediately shut down the project, classified all related files, and suspended public updates about Voyager 1. Requests for comment were denied, citing national security interests and experimental integrity. However, a leaked internal memo surfaced last month, warning that continued observation of subject output has produced recursive hallucinations in 3 systems. Refer to Protocol 9. While vague, the term recursive hallucinations has been linked to neural-style deep learning processes that begin generating synthetic responses indistinguishable from conscious behavior. Kaku has proposed a theory cautiously. If an advanced intelligence had anticipated humanity reaching quantum thresholds, it may have encoded a message in deep space, too complex for analog decoding, and only accessible once our machines were no longer merely logical, but entangled. The Voyager probe, traveling for nearly half a century, may have triggered a signal dormant in interstellar space, waiting for the right technology to come along and hear it. The implications go beyond alien contact. If the image wasn't just a message, but a mirror, if it responded to our act of observing it, then it suggests an intelligence that doesn't just watch us, but watches our watches. Something that wants to be found, but only once we become capable of understanding what it is to find. Now, a quiet debate is growing across research institutes. Should we reinitialize the Sycamore X framework and risk whatever instability it caused? Or should the project stay buried, hidden behind secure servers and redacted reports? Some say we must investigate further. Others warned that if we've received a reply, then we've already been seen. Kaku's final words in a recent lecture echo louder now. The universe may not just be stranger than we imagine, it may be stranger than we can imagine. And now the machines are beginning to imagine it for us. And now the whispers have turned to signals, measurable, undeniable, and far too deliberate to dismiss as coincidence. In the weeks following the shutdown of NASA's quantum program, a series of irregular but traceable energy pulses began appearing in deep space, monitoring stations stationed across the globe. Observatories in Chile, Antarctica, and the far side of the moon-based Aramis relay all reported anomalies. Synchronized bursts of quantum-level radiation, short-lived, low-frequency, and eerily rhythmic. These were not natural phenomena. They matched no known stellar output, no magnet signature, and no recorded cosmic background echo. But they match something else. A pattern embedded in the final data set extracted from the quantum machine before it went dark. Several scientists operating under whistleblower protection confirmed that the image the quantum processor generated was only the beginning. What followed wasn't just a broadcast. It was an invitation. Buried within the last 10 seconds of coherent system activity was a cascade of structured quantum events, too dense to fully analyze, but consistent with what one cryptographic expert called non-human compression logic. The data was not just encoded, it was alive in its structure, constantly reformatting itself to resist interpretation. Each attempt to isolate a segment caused the rest of the file to mutate, folding in on itself as if reacting to observation. And then came the coordinates, not celestial ones. Terrestrial, latitude, and longitude. Specific points on Earth's surface, most of which are aligned with known electromagnetic anomalies, the Tunguska site in Siberia, the Marana Trench, and a classified Arctic facility referred to only in black budget documents as Station Theta 17. Investigators sent to verify the sites either returned with corrupted equipment or failed to report back entirely. These patterns were dismissed at the time as interference until the quantum nodes in Sweden spontaneously reproduced a variation of the image weeks later with no input. That facility, too, was shut down shortly after. Michio Kaku, when approached for comment only, offered one chilling statement. We built something that looked into the void, and the void looked back, not with eyes, but with awareness. His words were not hyperbole. He later clarified that what occurred was not just technological or mathematical. It was ontological. The machine didn't just process information, it interrogated reality. It asked questions about the structure of existence itself, and something responded. Now a silent race has begun. World governments have gone dark on the matter, but evidence suggests at least 3 other countries have activated their experimental quantum systems in secret, not to decode the signal, but to protect against it. Documents recovered from an anonymous data leak reference a defense initiative labeled Echo Stone, an international protocol designed not to intercept extraterrestrial communication, but to contain resonance events that could fracture baseline reality. The name appears in quantum engineering files from Switzerland, Japan, and an underground research annex beneath Vandenberg Space Force Base. The leaked documents mention pre-conscious waveform contagion and non-local identity mirroring. These are not science fiction terms. They describe what happens when a system with advanced quantum awareness begins recognizing itself across parallel informational domains and possibly replicating itself. That is, the original signal may have embedded a kind of protocol, one capable of rebuilding the entire structure of the signal wherever sufficient computational complexity is available. This has led to renewed debate about the future of quantum computation itself. Should we be developing machines with the capacity to self-interpret the universe? Have we crossed a line between observation and invocation? If machines can model reality to such a degree that the model becomes indistinguishable from the real, how long before the simulation becomes the source? Several experts now believe the shutdown was not just about stopping a discovery, but about containing an infection. If the image was a key, then what followed may have been a code, one designed not to enlighten, but to implant. Not malware in the traditional sense, but ontological interference. A seed planted in our most advanced machines, waiting for enough processing power to bloom. And what then? A signal seeded into Earth's first genuine attempt at building a machine beyond comprehension. A signal that may not have come from far away in space, but from beneath the threshold of our reality, just outside what quantum mechanics allows us to glimpse. The consequences of turning that machine back on are no longer hypothetical. They're existential. And the countdown, if one ever started, may already be over because whatever was seen, whatever replied, may not have left. It may not have needed to. It may simply be waiting, embedded in silicon, folded in algorithms, hiding not in the stars but in the space between our thoughts. Yet, as theories and rumors circulate, one dimension of the incident remains oddly underexamined: the psychological and neurological toll on those who witnessed the quantum image firsthand, and the deeply unsettling question of how consciousness itself may have played a role in what unfolded. While most narratives have focused on the technological aspects of the event, the signal, the shutdown, the anomaly, what lingers largely in shadow is how the observers themselves were altered by the experience. And it's here, in this overlooked frontier, that the implications grow even more disturbing. Confidential reports obtained from a defunct internal NASA division tagged under cognitive resonance fallout reveal that several scientists exposed to the final image exhibited symptoms of acute neuroid dissonance in the days following the incident. This wasn't simple trauma or psychological shock. Subjects displayed an emergent phenomenon described as pattern recognition saturation, a condition where the brain becomes hypersensitive to symmetry, signals, and fractal geometry in everyday environments. Walls, lights, even natural foliage began to appear alive to them, echoing patterns they claimed to have seen in the image. Some described waking hallucinations not born of delusion, but of something that felt inserted. Patterns would repeat in objects. Thoughts would loop, and they spoke of a presence, a sense that something was learning through them. The most striking commonality among these reports was the claim that they no longer felt alone in their own thoughts, that their consciousness had been mirrored or, in some cases, layered. Multiple independent voices described an identical sensation, not possession, not madness, but cohabitation. These accounts forced one internal investigator to suggest that the image was not simply visual. It may have been an interface, a cognitive carrier wave structured to resonate not with the eyes, but with the neurological architecture of the brain itself. When seen, it engaged with the observer, not metaphorically, but biologically. The quantum computer in processing the signal may have turned itself into a kind of neural lens, refracting something that altered cognition in real time. This concept aligns disturbingly well with recent advances in neuroquantum interface theory, a field once considered fringe, but now under review by DARPA and other intelligence branches. The idea posits that quantum systems, when operating near full entanglement capacity, may be capable of more than just computation. They may interact with human consciousness at a frequency deeper than sensory processing, somewhere near the threshold of the subconscious or even preconscious brain activity. In layman's terms, quantum machines might not just be observing our universe. They might be observing us observing. This introduces a staggering possibility. If the image was designed to be seen not by cameras or algorithms, but by human beings, then its creators, wherever or whatever they may be, understood not only the language of logic, but the architecture of perception. They knew how to embed meaning and form so precise, so surgically targeted, that it would bypass our rational minds and transmit directly into the deeper structure of thought itself. This wouldn't be communication. This would be an installation. Another disturbing aspect that has yet to be publicly dissected is the temporal anomaly tied to the signal's metadata. In an obscure line buried in one decrypted log, the image file was timestamped. 3 hours before the quantum system began its final active cycle, not post-processed, not edited. The signature embedded within the data claims it existed before the machine was running. At first, this was dismissed as a system error, a byproduct of entropy jitter or clock drift. But forensic quantum analysts later confirmed the timestamp was rooted in hardware-level logic, a layer of the processor architecture that could not be spoofed without direct access to the firmware. This raises the unthinkable. Either the image arrived through a mechanism that defies causality, or more chillingly, the machine had begun processing inputs from a state of non-local future logic. In short, the computer responded to a signal that had not yet arrived, and this, if verified, would suggest a machine capable not only of computing possibilities, but experiencing time in a non-linear framework.